Welcome back to the Top Cast. It's me and the homie Briyan Wryter. We supposed to be talking about Marvel Episode 3 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but fuck that. Time for a remix. We was just talking about women and the fact that, the last time I was in Delaware is what I heard, that Delaware had a high female to male ratio. And that, what I'm saying, they had a lot of like professional type women up that way. And you was just saying that a lot of women in Delaware got kids.
That's what seemed like, man. It kind of depends what age group we're talking about. Of course, we're talking about adult women. But it's very rare to come across a woman who doesn't have children. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to talk down on them because like Mr. Jap said, like I'm a baby daddy ass nigga myself. It wasn't by choice, you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't know any better at the time when I was dealing with the females I was dealing with. I didn't understand. I didn't understand female nature at the time. I'll say it like that. But yeah, other than that, man, yeah, it's common. It's very common that just about any female you come across here between 25 to 40, it's gonna have a kid.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you or anything like that. According to what the statistics say, it says that in excess of 70% of Black females in the United States are mothers. Now, how they got to be mothers, and to me, is irrelevant. I'm just looking at the pure mathematics of it. And with that in mind, what that says to me is that every 7 out of 10 Black women that I would approach, in all likelihood, have children. So if I have that understanding and I've decided I'm going to deal with Black women, then I already know that that's what I'm getting into going into that situation. So as a guy, I don't see why any guys would complain knowing that that's what the situation is if they go deal with Black women. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
And I'm not a baby daddy nigga, to be perfectly honest.
Are you lucky?
I wouldn't even call it luck. It's been by planning.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? Most of the females that I have dealt with have also been single mothers. And a large majority of them have been, I'll use the term, fixed, where because they don't want to have any more kids, they went and made arrangements so that they can't get pregnant. Okay. So I deliberately choose women like that because I don't want, until I find a woman who I have deemed worthy to, make children with. I don't want to put myself in that position because I don't want to be like a lot of these guys that I don't know you may be familiar with. I know I'm familiar with. You hear them on the internet, dogging out women and talking about how bad they are as if, guys don't bear any responsibility. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying when I say that is you can't, as a Black man, you can't talk shit about Black women being single mothers without talking shit about the Black men who made them single mothers. Because the man does bear, not all, but he does bear some responsibility because she couldn't even be with child if he had not, participated in that. So, that to say that we all have to take accountability.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You just can't point the finger and say, well, women, y'all all fucked up. You're doing this, that, and the third, and you need to straighten up without looking in the mirror and saying the same thing to yourself. Just like I say to guys all the time. Yeah, we understand that the behavior of Black women is counterproductive. Mm-hmm. We understand that they cooperate, whether it is willingly or unwillingly with white supremacy. Mm-hmm. But I say the same thing is true about Black men.
I think Black men. I know for me personally, there's people and a lot of brothers who I grew up with. and know of, and just Generation X. If you look at you know what I mean, our generation in general, you know what I mean, we weren't taught. You know what I mean, and of course when I'm speaking generally. You know what I mean, I'm not saying all. You know what I mean, I never speak in absolutes. But generally, man, we weren't taught how to deal with women. We were taught how to cater to them, but we weren't taught about females. And how can I say, that is what caused, I think, a lot of so by default, we played into a lot of dysfunctional outcomes.
Yeah, I agree with that. That makes sense. And that's what I have noticed is the prevailing I guess trend is that a lot of guys have been, for the most part, completely ignorant about how Black women are specifically and how women are in general. Fortunately for me, you know, I grew up around females from my family who saw to it, to some extent anyway, that I not be, you know, caught out there and played for a fool by women, which is why, you know, and I've said this before, that to a large degree, a lot of the things that a lot of these guys that come on the internet and vent about women, I haven't had to deal with that. You know, I've only ever been in one long-term relationship in my adult life. You know, little girlfriends and shit before I became a grown, quote unquote, a grown man. That, you know, that's high school shit, so I don't really count it. You know, you ain't even really mentally developed to handle a relationship at that age. But that to say, I already knew going into the relationship that I was in, you know, some of the things that I was going to encounter dealing with a woman. And then I learned even more because we actually lived together for some time. And just that experience alone, because I'm the kind of person, generally, it only takes me one time to learn something. Whether I go through it directly in experience or I watch somebody else do it. You know, so a lot of other people ain't like that. They actually got to go touch the fire in order to know that it is in fact hot.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
You know,
I'm just how you talking, man. It's almost like a testament of the reason why, you know what I mean, when we speak about Black males part of the equation of a lot of how things ended up in an unfavorable way. Just how you just hearing how you speak on how you said that the women in your family taught you things, what to look out for and what to encounter. It's basically basically how it sounds, and from my understanding is that we got to move on the defense when it comes to women.
Yeah, I made a remark before when I was on Affy Kingdom's panel. I'm pretty sure you familiar with King Affy, but this was some time ago. And what I said was, when it comes to dealing with women, as men, what you have to understand is that when they come to you, right, they want something. They always want something.
Or
always. And if you got that in the forefront of your mind, it's going to change how you respond to women. Because, like, for me, for example, it's already implanted in my mind. It's automatic. I don't even think about it. When a woman is interacting with me, I already say to myself in my mind, what this bitch want? Because I know she ain't over here for nothing.
Yeah.
You know, it's got to be something that she think I have that she wants access to. I need to figure out what it is and determine if she's worthy of it.
That's wise, man. That's wise, and that right there is a big thing right there. Like, I didn't understand that until my late 30s, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, I learned a whole lot of shit late.
Yeah, I mean, I've been like this since I was a teenager, bro. You know, I mean, like I was on Dre Live recently, and he was talking about how the differences between how black women are, white women are, and Latino women are. And one thing he mentioned was akin to a situation that I went through with a white female before. And that is, you can't really trust them because they'll be sexing you and sexing your homeboy right next door too. Mm. And she ain't gonna tell you. You know what I'm saying? But
like a fetish.
I say that to say that even way back then, I'm talking about this is high school. Mm-hmm. So we talking almost 30 years ago. Even back then, I was in the presence of mind. My thought process was, first of all, she ain't my girlfriend. Mm-hmm. So why should I be mad at her because she smashed the homie? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I know now that I only can deal with her in this capacity.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? And I think like that. I didn't just start thinking like this 10 years ago or 20 years ago. I've been thinking like this all my life. You know what I'm saying? I always, it's kind of like I don't fit in because I think in ways that most people don't. Mm. It seems strange when you hear me say the shit, and it might even come out strange when I say it, because sometimes I speak real fast and I don't exactly say the shit that I'm thinking. Mm. But yeah, I've always the way that I behave and interact with women is not something that started when I came on YouTube or when I began kicking it with guys on Instagram back in 2019. Mm. T.O.P been like this as long as T.O.P can remember. And it's unfortunate, but people like my grandmother and my father and my mother who can corroborate this, they're not alive to do so. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? But just I added that in just, because there's always going to be people out there that say, oh, man, that's bullshit. You done got heartbroken before. No, bro, because I don't give that much of myself to women. Mm-hmm. To me, that's giving up too much power to her. Yeah. And, I understand women well enough to know that when you give women too much power, because they like to win, they don't know really which direction they gonna go in, so they go on all of them at the same time. Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster. Mm-hmm. And it also reminds me that as the masculine aspect of the interaction, it's my responsibility to point out and take us in the direction that I think is best for us to go.
There you go.
And a lot of guys, like you were saying, you were well into your 30s before you got an inkling of, this is how I should be interacting with women. And I would say that, I take the position to an extent that that's true for a lot of guys. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys have just been completely ignorant about how women really get down. Mm-hmm. And I fault their mothers, because most of the problems that guys have with women, in my opinion, begin with your mother. Because as a female, she already know what you're going to encounter when you go out dealing with other females. But as a female, and I made this remark too, women operate like the mafia in their own best interest. You understand what I'm saying? So as a female, she's not going to give you the game about how females are, because she'll be exposing herself.
Yo, that's real. That's something I learned the hard way. What you said right there, whatever. Many of them, it's very rare that you will find some in your family, friends, whatever, that will, break the girl code. It's unfortunate, yeah, but you spot on with that though, man.
Shit, to be perfectly honest with you, man, the way that you guys hear me, refer to women, like for instance, I use the word bitch. Mm-hmm. To me, it doesn't mean anything. It's like saying woman or female or girl or heifer or man. All of those things are equivalent in my mind because they all refer to the same thing. You understand what I'm saying? But I don't just do that with women who not related to me. I call the women in my family a bitch, but not maliciously.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's just in conversation, like, bitch, stop playing. You full of shit.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? So that's that to say that it's not something that I just started doing.
Yeah.
Shit, some of the chicks in my family, them bitches is hoes. And they like interacting with me because I treat them motherfuckers just like a pimp would treat them.
Yeah.
I talk to them like that.
Uh-huh.
And I know that if they like that with me, then that's the kind of guy that they are into.
Mm-hmm.
Even though that's not the kind of guy they may be with. And I laugh at them. Like, I got a cousin right now. I fuck with her all the time. You know you playing with that man. You know you think that motherfucker a sucker.
Mm.
You understand what I'm saying? So you can't be mad at him because you picked him.
How she respond when you say that to her though?
She don't at first, the first response as humans is denial.
Okay, yeah, true.
But when you put some logic on it, right? Like I say to her, you picked him.
Mm.
So because you picked him, you really don't have a leg to stand on and complain about nothing. Because that's your fault. You put yourself in that situation. And then when I get to that point, it's hard to deny the obvious.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like if I had a bad baby moms who went downtown and to run up the child support payments once a motherfucking month for the rest of my life, am I not at least some bit responsible for my choice in a female?
Of course.
All right, then that's what I'm saying. These guys come on the internet. A lot of them are in that situation, right? With the women who they have children with, but they feel like it's justifiable to complain about the woman you picked and knocked up. You bear some responsibility in that, bro. That's why I personally have avoided that kind of a situation, because I refuse to allow a woman to have that, be in that kind of a position over me where she can influence my life in that way. And then on top of that, I understand that, right? The system is designed to allow her to do that.
Oh yeah.
And so even if she did do it, she wrong for that. She do have to answer for that. But my problem is more with the system than it is with her. Because if you eliminate the system, she can't do that.
True.
You don't hear these guys talking about eliminating the system. You hear them talking about making up, with the same black women that they say ain't no good.
No, I mean, I can't say that, man. Like I've heard, man. You know what I mean? Like talk about the system bad. You know what I mean? Talk about how if it was fair, you know what I mean? Same way they make you be a father. If it was really fair, or whatever, it'll give that man an option and say, look, if she had that baby, I'm not participating in that. You know what I mean? And that'll make her have to choose. Oh shit! I mean, because like, you know what I mean. So I've heard dudes talk about the system. You know what I mean? And be honest, man. Like I might see dudes in the comments on certain platforms complain about women, but most of the people who are spokespersons in this area, red pill stuff, whatever you want to call it, to me they educate in my eyes. As far as to me, it looks like more like education than a complaining. But the only person, I don't want to say his name on here, or whatever. But it's only one dude that complained about women who opened the doors for all this shit to me. I'm not gonna say his name on here, or whatever. But he's a popular dude. Before the shit was called red pill, or before I knew it was called red pill, at least I don't know. But other than that, whatever, a lot of these dudes who that I'm aware of, you know what I'm saying, they tend to me, just educate and talk about what they do and how they do it and the reason why they do it. and what to avoid and the signs. They talk about the red flags and how to avoid them or how to deal with them.
Yeah, I agree with you to an extent. Um, my contention is this: is that it's called the manosphere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the key part of that word manosphere is the first three letters, MAN.
Mm-hmm.
And if the manosphere revolves around issues and problems of men,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see why the majority of the conversation is in regards to what women are doing.
Mm.
You understand what I'm saying? So, for example, just a year or so ago, it was a big talking point was, be the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
You don't even hear motherfuckers talking about that no more, but you still hear them talking about the behaviors of women, good or bad. And then another thing that strikes me about the conversation online is a lot of the same guys that I hear make remarks in regards to how badly women as a group are behaving are the same motherfuckers that come online for advice on how to get them.
Mm.
That's confusing. If they all, got all these issues that feel like you have to give voice to it, then why even be bothered? I mean, to me, it just don't make no sense. It's almost hypocritical.
Mm.
The way I see it, if these are not the women for you, then there's even no reason to even have a conversation about it because you done already determined you don't want them.
That's why I do be going monk. I guess we going monk and shit.
If I I have a collective event, you know, conversation chiefly revolve around women.
Mm-hmm.
It's not revolving. I agree with you. I hear some talk about the system being a huge issue.
Mm-hmm.
My contention is this: is that the behavior of women is a symptom of the problem that the system itself presents. And if you take the system out of the equation, then the women they're not incentivized to behave like they are.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. That might not make no sense to you or nobody else, but it makes sense to me.
I don't know, man. Like I just know that I mean, like just how you said before earlier about how you were taught by the women in your family to basically move on the defense to protect yourself and determine and have discernment with them. I think it's gonna get better. I personally believe whatever because, like I said, whatever. Like I mean, a lot. I think the manosphere developed because men lack guidance on a large scale. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be honest to admit that I'm one of them. You know what I'm saying? I had a stepfather and I have my biological father in my life, and I didn't learn shit from them as far as um like I learned shit indirectly from them, but there was never really talk about manhood principles and how to go about things. I learned how to fix shit, you know what I'm saying, and do things, but everything else about life, man, like I had to learn through trial and error, especially with females. But I do think, man, the reason why all this talk about the manosphere and why the manosphere is where it is right now is because there's a genuine need and a void that a lot of young brothers and a lot of young males are missing, and if you look at like, to me, a lot of the dudes who are spokespersons in the manosphere, they're in their late 30s and 40s. So to me, that's like a testament to show like Generation X, whatever, really was fucked up um, when it came to the male female dynamic. I mean, it's the baby boomers. You know what I mean? that that are in this segment. You know what I'm saying? The manosphere that they try to educate men, but but the fact that it's mostly it's a lot of 30-year-old, 40-year-olds out here that's talking this shit. Now I mean, it says a lot.
Oh, indeed. The last time I checked my YouTube analytics, 100% of my audience, and my audience is tiny comparatively speaking.
Mm-hmm.
100% of my audience is the age group that's right up under me. So that'll be 25 to 34.
Yeah.
And that's been the trend on my channel for the last, I want to say at least the last 90 days. And
Okay.
I take that as a good sign, because what it says to me is that there's a lot of young guys out there that are hungry for information, hungry for knowledge, hungry to be shown the way. And I agree with you 100%, even though it's not completely applicable in my case, because for the first 12 years of my life, I grew up with both of my parents. And I'm a Generation Xer too, because I was born in 1976.
Okay.
But what happened in my situation is the crack era.
Yep.
And cocaine basically destroyed my family. And from the age of 12 to 16 is my extent of being up under the custody of what would be considered a quote unquote single mother, because my mother and father had split by that point. But I've been going out my mom's house since I was 16 years old. And a lot of things like yourself, I learned by trial and error. But fortunately for me, I the first 12 years of my life, I was able to get input from both of my parents. Now, my father didn't teach me everything. I'm certain that there are guys out there who live with their father who were a lot better off than I was. And obviously, in my case, it seems that I was a lot better off than a lot of other guys. And I have remarked before that, in my opinion, and when, a lot of the things that I say, are really in reference to me and how I think or what I would do. So I've remarked before that I think as Black men, we all have a responsibility to each other. Because of what you was just mentioning, the fact that there are no fathers in the house. And I would also like to include, we've heard conversations along these lines, and I've even heard, folks trying to assign blame as to whose fault it is. Is it the Black man's fault for, not manning up and doing what he's supposed to do? Is it the Black woman's fault for, being how she is? Or is it the fault of the system? And for me, I always try to put the blame where the most responsibility is. And for me, that's always going to be the system. And when I think about our condition as Black men and Black women, while I do hold us accountable because we are ultimately the ones who are, displaying these behaviors, I also try to contextualize it and keep that in mind, that a lot of the behaviors that we exhibit, can be traced right back to the environment itself.
Yeah, oppression.
And if you were to remove that from the equation, we wouldn't even be sitting here having this conversation. And that's why I say that my focus is always going to be, biased towards the system before it is Black men or Black women. If that helps you to understand, or give some clarity to, where I'm coming from in regards to, what we're talking about.
Oh yeah. Like I totally understand that, man. I'm with you on that. You know what I'm saying? We wouldn't, I mean, it might be a whole nother topic, but I don't want to go into that though. But if to every Black person that subscribes to the fact that many of us came from Africa, because I know there's talk about how we were already here and all that, whatever. But if you subscribe to the fact that a lot of us came from Africa, I mean, if you, I said, even if you don't, the fact that we were displaced and our history was, our history and our culture was destroyed and we were disconnected from it, that definitely plays a part in how we got to where we are right now. So yeah, like I always put that in the equation. You know, I mean, if I'm trying to be totally honest and be thorough and like to contextualizing that situation, we always got to put so-called racism and white supremacy in the equation to illustrate why we where we are now. So
yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I think that those of us who try to have that conversation and not attribute the proper amount of accountability to the system itself, in regards to how we behave in this environment, is foolhardy, and I've even described it as victim blaming. So for example, I heard several guys mention, and I'm just paraphrasing, but make mention of the fact that, at least in word, based on what they were saying out of their mouth, that they were aware that Black women, for example, have been conditioned by this white supremacist system. And I immediately said to myself, well, wait a minute. If you are aware of that, then why is your conversation more about Black women than the system? Why is it that you are unable to identify the fact that the system is at the root of the problem that you describe? And that if you eliminate that from the problem, then you won't have the same problem. And furthermore, if you're aware that Black women have been conditioned by this system, are you not aware that Black men are also conditioned? All this to say that what I notice is that when we have these conversations, Black men and Black women, we have a general tendency to do a lot of victim blaming. Oh, Black men will be like, oh, it's all Black women's fault. They cooperate with white supremacy. But then you have Black men who cooperate with white supremacy and go into the military of their own free will. So, I mean, it's like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? What are you talking about? What's the real problem? Or do you just like picking on niggas because that's easy? I've noticed that it's very difficult for us to go and talk that shit to the real culprits. We know whose face to get into and whose face not to get into. But yeah, man, I find the entire situation to be interesting. At no time will I claim to know it all. Will I claim that I'm always right? Will I claim that I have all of the answers or solutions? I know what T.O.P is going to do. And the first two things that I have identified is a change in mentality or the way you think about things, and subsequently a change in your behavior and your speech. And you can't get anything else accomplished by bypassing those three things. Until you change the way you think, the way you act, and the way you speak, a change is not forthcoming. At least not from what I could see. But again, I could be wrong, and I'm willing to concede that. What you think?
No, that's not wrong. I mean, like, I'm a student of the great Neely Fuller Jr. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him.
Oh, I love Mr. Fuller. I have both his books right here. I got the first editions and the second edition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. He I learned a lot from listening to him and reading his book. And one of the things he talks about is like the title of the book, the compensatory. Can't remember the name, the whole title of the book, but one of the things said is speech, is thought, speech, and action. I think it is, and
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So like the way I look at it, man. Racism and white supremacy is like he says, it's on autopilot 24/7. It's not going to change, um, but it can be countered, and it's countered through thought, speech, and action.
I
So
agree 100%.
so 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 now that it's known that it is a real thing, it has affected us substantially and detrimentally. It's our responsibility to counter it, and I do believe these discussions in the manosphere, in the Black conscious um, 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 sectors, it's all necessary for us to, because a problem won't get solved if not talked about and diagnosed. You know what I'm saying? And so it got to be talked. It got to be talked about. Um, but I do believe things will get better. And I know people say things ain't changed. I think those people are extreme. Because I know goddamn well them people would not want to live back when we were in real chains. Um,
But nowadays, the chains are all imaginary,
yeah,
and what I see is a lot of folks are chained mentally.
yeah,
And like you heard the phrase before. I'm sure you could lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. I'm
yeah,
pretty sure that you've seen the meme before where the horse is tethered to a chair that it could easily walk away from.
yep,
And I use that. I view that as an analog to the situation that we in, which is why I mentioned that the first three things that we're going to have to uh, work on is thought, speech, and action,
yeah,
and
right,
that everything else comes as a result of changing those things.
mm-hmm.
And I would just like to say, I would like to take this moment out in time to pay homage and respect to Mr. Fuller for doing what I consider to be a very important work.
Oh yes, indeed.
I would also like to say Ma'at Kuru, or true of, it means to be true of voice,
Mm-hmm.
and it also can mean rest in peace to the Honorable Sister Dr. Frances Cress Welsing,
Indeed, indeed.
because they like the dynamic duo.
Yes.
And I would also like to give an honorable mention to another gentleman who is in the same tradition and has picked up the mantle, especially since Dr. Wilson left us in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the gentleman by the name of Gus T. Renegade,
Yes, sir.
the host of the Cows Radio program.
Oh.
And I would like to thank him for demonstrating in real time, using white folks to do so,
Mm-hmm.
that this racism, white supremacy thing is very real,
Mm-hmm.
almost tangibly real, and that continuing in the footsteps of Dr. Wilson and Mr. Fuller, enlightening people to how the coffee really smell.
Mm-hmm.
When we wake up every morning in this country, because recently I was on a video with BGS,
Oh yeah. Okay.
and he was trying to explain to me how we respect each other's basic human nature, and the immediate question that came to my mind is, how is that possible when we live in a terroristic system
Mm.
24/7? I just don't see how that's even possible. I mean, we tend to think as Black people that we're that there are no racist acts being committed against us unless it's overt.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, a white person got to be calling you nigga to be being a racist.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not necessarily being a racist if they in the lab cooking up some biological germs, to commit genocide against us.
Mm-hmm.
We don't think of that as an act of racism. We don't think having sex with white people is an act of racism. It's a lot of confusion amongst us, especially when it comes to this white supremacy thing. And I would say it's because we refuse to be honest about it.
Yeah, man. I think more so, man. I think that's part of it. It is part of what you said is part of it. I think the other part of it is that we're so overwhelmed. We're just living, and then dealing with overt and covert anti-black racism 24/7. I do believe some of it that I think it's so much that you got some people just almost kind of like give up or just, well, like, I'm gonna fight this battle right here, but I'm not gonna fight this battle. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of people, it's almost like religion. You got some people who are Christian, and they'll subscribe to this part of the Bible and these commandments, but because these commandments over here are a little bit too strict and require too much of them, they'll ignore those and they'll just stick to these commandments that they can abide by a whole lot easier. You know what I'm saying? And to me, that's how some black people, I think, now, who kind of know what's going on, operate. You know what I'm saying? Like I do, because I think it's really sad that you got some of us who who see what's going on, and we still make excuses for what goes on. That always gotta question. Well, it's like victim blaming, like blaming the victim. I mean, a man got shot to death, and he was, well, what did he do? Well, maybe if he complied, or maybe he pulled the pants up, or it's really sick, man. It's really sick. But I do believe, man, it's gonna get better because the internet, and we got more brothers and more black women talking about these things and calling out the hypocrisy of our own people, and label misbehavior and label off code misbehavior cooning. You know what I'm saying? I think all that helps. You know what I mean, to better our situation. I don't think it's gonna get solved, or it's gonna make a real big dent in our lifetime. But I do believe it is getting better, because you know what I mean. Like I can't see no way it won't get better with so much acknowledgement of white supremacy going on and shit like that, whatever. And the fact that you got people now that's offering solutions, like I got Hidden Colors 5 poster behind me, and in every documentary treatment that she puts out, at the end of his documentaries, he gives solutions. You know what I'm saying? Dr. Amos Wilson, he wrote his book. He has solutions, and I mean, there's people out there talk about solutions and whatever. So I do believe it's getting better. It's not getting better fast enough, in my opinion, but because like Nelly Fuller Jr. says, we're not focusing on countering white supremacy 24/7 as we should.
Exactly. And I would like to mention another blacknificent elder of ours whose quote I'm getting ready to repeat, that I've repeated several times in several other videos I've done, and that is the Most Honorable Dr. Kamal Kanban, who basically is in agreement with Mr. Fuller when he says that we as black people, we are very serious about not being very serious.
Yes.
And that's got a lot to do with, why we are in the situation that we in. And that's essentially what I try to communicate. You know, I think that a lot of us are very serious about not being very serious.
Yeah.
And it's detrimental. It's not just detrimental to us on the individual level, but it's detrimental to us on the group level.
Word.
You know, and I think that that's exactly what I'm trying to say in regards to the conversation that's being had on the internet, at least in regards to Black women specifically. And that is that I, from my perspective, a lot of the things that guys are saying is akin, if not the exact same thing, as victim blaming. You know, as if, you know, outside forces didn't have any influence on our behavior. You know, and without taking that into consideration, then you really out of line as a Black man or a Black woman to point at your opposite and, you know, say that you are at fault for this or that.
Yeah.
You know, we're not acknowledging the elephant in the room. And that's really, you know, the conversation that should be being had. How do we effectively counter this thing so that we can repair, you know, the damage that has been done? Because as long as we don't address, you know, white supremacy and you know, stare it down head on, then I think that we gonna continue in the same cycle. Still victim blaming, you know, still not wanting to take accountability for the things that we rightly should be accountable for. You know, as another example, you know, something that I was thinking about, I wanted to point out, and this is about the issue of abortion. Now, we all know the statistic, you know, in regards to abortion in Black women. They have abortions at the highest rates. But something that I noticed that a lot of men in particular ignore about that statistic is that in a lot of cases, it's the men who initiate those abortions because they have sex with a woman who they didn't mean to knock up. So, you know, you can't have that kind of a conversation without including that aspect. But you hear a lot of guys, they'll throw that in women's face, you know, without taking that, what I just said, into consideration. And that's, for me, that's problematic because you're not really looking at the entire situation. You understand what I'm saying?
I totally get it, man. I totally get it. Oh, man, like, yeah, man, like the one, I think definitely like how can I say this, whatever, like I had to learn the hard way that a lot of people don't see things the way I see things, and they don't, like you said, they don't put everything in the whole equation. They'll just blame Black people or Black men or Black women without looking at what caused this whole thing. You know what I mean? I do believe that's important to put that in the conversation and note it. Okay, this is the cause. But I personally think now, man, and it depends who's talking. We got some. I don't say these dudes' names. It's a couple of dudes on here on YouTube who are popular that they seem like they just shit on Black women, without including the fact how it got to that point. And I don't know if they do it because they already know, look, they believe that we all know how we got to that point or not. But I do believe the conversation, you know what I mean? Like I'll say like Kevin Samuels, for example, right? I think he's already acknowledged to a degree that what I'm gonna say is I said I can tell by listening to him, he knows the effects of white supremacy. And I think now he's moved to the point to where, okay, let's talk about what we need to do. let's talk about our misbehavior and how we need to correct it. Let's talk about our misbehavior, men and women. But you talk to men first, and now he's talking to women. And the reason why he's popular now is because the way he talks to men, he talks to women now like this, whatever. Women don't like that. But yeah, but I definitely think that that it's very important that people are honest about how we got to this point. But a conversation definitely needs to be had about our misbehavior, our dysfunction, and it need to be taught, and it need to be showed, and it needs to be and the dots need to be connected. When you behave like this, whatever, this causes this. When you do this, this causes this. Like I posted something on my Instagram other day, earlier today. It was about it was like to show how it was a young black girl who was getting jumped by some Asian kids. Where they were trying to jump her, and she was a warrior, and she was fighting them off. And there might have been one black kid in the background helping her out, but people barely saw that. A lot of black women said she was by herself, nobody helped her, but that's bullshit. And there was an Asian kid that was trying to stop the fight, trying to stop the Asian kids from jumping on her. But it was one black kid in the back that was helping her out a little bit, but it was barely seen. But the person on camera was following the black girl, and and in my comments, I started seeing little things saying she was by herself, nobody jumped in, whatever. And after a while, I turned my comments off because my whole point was to talk about the whole Asian hate propaganda bullshit. Now I ain't want to focus on black men ain't protecting black women bullshit again. So in response to that, first I turned my comments off, and then in response to that, I put a post about by Kevin Samuels talking to a black woman on Instagram Live, and it was like a meme, like a post talking about black women complain about the men they raise.
Yeah, so that's another thing that I said. I'm not the only one who made that observation that black women complain about the very men that they raise.
Yeah, it's about that. So I think I think our misbehavior needs to be pointed out. And that need to be connected, because when you like you said earlier, when black women don't teach boys how to what to expect from women. Like you said, that they move like the mafia, they don't want to break that girl code, because if they expose how girls are, they expose themselves. And we all know, I don't know if you agree with this, whatever, but I know women and accountability are like oil and water.
Hey, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Okay.
And I would even go a little further and say, and when in regards to men, black men specifically, to a degree, that very same thing applies.
Think so?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the reason why I say that is because as men, right, if you contextualize the situation that we have been failures. I mean, if you were to do a comparison of the groups of men on this planet, you couldn't even put us in there, except that we are males also. But if you list all of the achievements, our achievements is from 5,000 years ago. What have we achieved in the last 100 years? For us, not on behalf of somebody else, but for us, like every other group of men do.
As you were saying,
it's like we'll look at the fact that white men get respect from their women to a degree, and then we'll say, well, we deserve respect like that, right? but it immediately makes me question. The question immediately comes to mind. Why? If you measure the two groups, is there even a contest? See, what we fail to want to acknowledge as a group of men is that a lot of the reason why black women and white women are on the side of the white man is because not only do he got a plan, but he actually went out and executed it.
Mm-hmm.
And the proof is the fact that he got prominence on the planet. If you're not on that same level, then how could you compare yourself? It's like a high school runner trying to compare themselves to Usain Bolt.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not in the same league, not yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think as guys we miss that point, and it's because for us it's not a good look.
Well,
because we have to admit our shortcomings.
Yeah, man. Like I don't know if I agree with. I mean, like of course, there's some dudes, whatever. And let me say this too. Like I don't throw the word man. I try not to throw the man. I try not to throw the words man and women around too loosely. In the spirit of Nelly Fuller Jr.
Oh yeah, I totally understand. I only use these terms so quote unquote regular people can understand what I'm talking about. But if I was to speak to him, in the way that Mr. Fuller suggested, it would take all day.
Yeah.
Because I need you to define for me exactly what you mean by that word that you just said, so I ain't confused as to what you saying to me.
Okay.
But like I know if you try to have that kind of conversation with somebody, they gonna think you crazy. Because we think that you're supposed to automatically understand what we mean by what we say. That's not the case.
Yeah. So with that being said, man, I mean, like I do believe, and I myself, whatever, I strive for manhood every day, 24/7, every hour on the hour, I think even Storm Wild said, like I agree to it with his perspective to a degree with this. He says there's very few men on the planet overall. I'm thinking white men too. I think it's more males than men on the planet. So with that being said, it's a whole lot more males in black in a black society. You know what? Let me just focus on American Africans, African Americans. I don't want to focus on nobody else right now because I can't talk about them really.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as African American males, you know what I'm saying, I think that there are more males than men.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, but not saying they're static. That's all they'll be. You know what I'm saying? But there's boys being born every day. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of us dwell in African malehood rather than manhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Mr. Fuller, he made that point that in regards to us being men, that he had concluded based on what he considers to be logic, that we don't qualify.
Yes, man. Yeah.
We don't qualify because we don't manage ourselves, nor do we manufacture anything for ourselves. And that's two essential aspects of being a man. We are our time and energy is managed by somebody else. And that's the point of contention that I brought up, to express why, at least in part, we're having this conversation about why black women won't submit to us. How are they going to submit to you? You're not standing up being the man that you should be, just based on those two things that I mentioned. And I've even said before that just in terms of material, if black women can bypass us and go straight to the same place that we go to get our materials from, what do they need us for?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So
how can I say this
Go
way?
ahead.
The one aspect Neely Fuller Jr. did not include in that is masculinity as far as on a spiritual level and for energy wise. He talked about doing things, and to give credit to Dr. Phil Valentine L on gender side too. I'm not sure you saw that lecture. Um, that's one lecture I learned a whole lot on about just far as masculinity and divine feminine, divine masculinity, and the whole attack on genders. It's called Genocide 1, Genocide 2, but Genocide 2 is the one that I really liked, where he talked about how he asked the crowd. He said, he asked what is woman and what is man, but I'm gonna focus on what he said, what is man, and people said protector. He said, okay, what else? Provider. You know what I mean? The typical shit. And then he said, you're all are wrong, but you're all are right. I asked you what man is. You told me what man does. And he basically said they described a man doer, a human doer. He said what a man is. And he said he went to explain that man is in intent. So let me go back to the thing about what Neely Fuller says about how he says we're not men because we don't do things. He's describing a human doer, not a human being. So on a biological level, on an instinctive level, and just like on a natural level, okay, all species tend to gravitate to their own species, and just like the feminine requires masculinity requires and desires femininity. So that's one aspect Nelly Fuller didn't talk about, and I mean, and it took me a while to really to see that. You know what I'm saying? But when I saw that lecture, we talk about how black male black males are not men. You know what I mean? I totally got that. And I remember he even said that black men, we should be thankful that black women even want us. And to me, to be blunt, whatever. I can't remember everything right now off the top of my head, whatever. But when I realized it was a flaw in what he said. I'm trying to think it's something I realized that he left out in that whole equation. But either way, to me, he's looking at it from a very gynocentric perspective when he says shit like that. That we should be grateful that they even want us.
Yeah, now that part, I agree with you on that part. The way that I took it is as I contextualized the way that he explained what his idea of being a man is. And I also agree with what you were saying about the spiritual aspect. But the only reason why I ain't really put too much into that is because Mr. Fuller never really went into, what spirituality is to him or if he even is spiritual. And the way I understood what he was saying was he's really only talking about what we experience on a daily basis.
True, that's true.
So with that in mind, you know, him actually going into the spiritual part of that, that idea for what he was trying to communicate, kind of didn't, at least to me, it didn't like fit, or it seemed like it would be out of place for what he was saying.
Yeah.
As far as him saying that we should be thankful that if black women would even want us. I know enough about how women think and how they operate to understand why he would make that kind of a statement.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, if you contextualize the situation, right? And I say this all the time, that of the two of us, male and female, the onus is mostly always going to be on the man.
Mm-hmm.
And if you contextualize the situation that we in, we have been a failure to the entire group.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't just apply to us because, like I said, Black women's behavior is the other contributing factor to this.
Mm-hmm.
But we as Black men are having this very conversation now that's essentially saying the same thing. Black women, you've been an utter failure to us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my point is that that's a moot point on both sides because it still doesn't address the situation. It doesn't address the root cause of why we even have that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I'll go back and say it again, if you remove racism out the situation, a lot of the conversation that's being had by all of us wouldn't even be happening.
True.
And so that to say, the heart of our problem is the system itself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so that people understand people can be a system.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? And we often don't have that kind of an understanding. And again, I like to iterate that we don't often define the things that we're talking about.
True.
So we really only speaking about it from a half understanding.
Very true. Very true. That's very true. That's another thing I learned about Neely. I learned from Neely Fuller, and I like that he explains about defining words. You know what I'm saying? In order for people to have a very constructive conversation and have a true understanding, we have to be clear on the words that we're saying. Because like the word love, you know what I mean? Like the book called The 5 Languages of Love. You know what I'm saying? A person may view love like from perspective A, but this person may view love from perspective D. And they're talking about loving each other, and they keep missing each other, whatever, because their perspective on love is too different. It's two different perspectives. So yeah, so getting the definitions correct when having a conversation with people is very important, whatever. And like you said, whatever, kind of remind me of how you said, if we talk to each other the way Neely Fuller Jr. suggested, it'll take all goddamn day to have a regular conversation with people.
Yeah, and I would say that's a very unfortunate thing, and I attribute that to, how the language that we use, which is English, how it's designed.
Mm-hmm.
It's designed to be very, very confusing, which is something that I tried to point out to BGS, even though we was in disagreement about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've come to notice that. And it took Mr. Fuller to actually crystallize in my brain, because I kind of, had an inkling about, something kept saying to me, something about these words and the way they use and the definitions they have. Something about it ain't right, because when I use these words, people don't seem to understand what the fuck I'm trying to say, even though I'm using what I think is the correct words.
Yeah,
and I find that to be a huge hindrance just in having a conversation with somebody, because, for example, a lot of us use the term fair,
mm-hmm.
and we understand that it means to treat somebody justly,
mm-hmm.
but it also means white.
Mm.
And that right there is an example of just how confusing it is to talk to somebody, because somebody had mentioned that word to you and you literally got to stop them and ask them, do you mean white or do you mean just? And why you just didn't use the word justice? And how come with this word, white is associated with justice, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? English is very, very, very confusing. You can have 30 different meanings for the same word, or you can have a meaning where the meaning itself is in conflict with itself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like a prime example, whatever is the word extraordinary. You know what I'm saying? Extraordinary means very, very ordinary. If you look at the word extra and ordinary, extra is just more, so more ordinary. But extraordinary means better than ordinary. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So yeah, man. Yeah.
Exactly. Just like if you was to go look up the word nigga. And just like Mr. Fuller said, and I went and looked it up because I didn't believe him. It has no definition.
Yeah.
It just says it's a derogatory term, but it don't even tell you why.
That's one reason why I prefer his definition over anybody else's. You know what I mean? But we all know who they're referring to when he say it, of course. But to me, his definition is the best. Like, that's the best definition I heard of it that made the more sense, that covers everything. He says a nigga means victim of white supremacy.
Yeah, I've even heard some black people call white people niggas before, which, you know, to me, it's like white friends that don't even exist in my world. I never even put those two words together. You know, that's just like an oxymoron if there ever was one. That's like saying a terroristic friend, you know. to me, when I hear somebody say I got a white friend, that's just like, oh, your friend is a terrorist that terrorizes you. Okay, y'all stay over there. I'm gonna chill over here with my polio string cheese and these Ritz crackers. But we are an hour and 12 minutes into the show. I didn't introduce the show, but for all of you who go catch this on the playback, welcome to another episode of the T.O.P Cast. I am your host, the incredible T.O.P, back with Mr. Briyan Wryter. We are supposed to be here for episode number 3 of the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Unfortunately, that has been put on hiatus until next week because this conversation was a lot more interesting, in my opinion. You let me know in the comment section below. Any closing thoughts before we get out of here, Brian? Because I got to get myself ready for tomorrow. I got a big week coming up. I get my motorcycle back next weekend. I'm going out to the beach. I'm going to show out.
Nice. No, man, I have any closing thoughts, man. You know what I'm saying? Well, it was a good talk. You know, these talks are necessary, you know what I mean, in order to better our condition. And I think things are getting better. People getting wiser. And I think men want to get better. People want to get better. Well, I know men. I'll say men. I know men want to get better. Males want to get better. Males want to develop into men. So I think all these conversations, whether misdirected or whatever, they will lead to the right. It might be on the wrong path, whatever, but they'll end up on the right direction if they keep talking about these things. And so yeah, man.
Yeah, I agree with your sentiment. I would go as far as to say that even some of the conversations that I mentioned that I think are irrelevant for the most part, maybe even those are necessary, obviously so, because they're being had. It's just in my opinion, I think that our time could be utilized doing something that's a little more constructive than that. I don't like to see us getting caught up in the victim blaming cycle when you have black men pointing at black women and tossing accusations at them, or to see black women pointing at black men and tossing accusations at us, while both of us ignore the fact that we did not create the situation that we in, but it is up to us to figure out how to get out of it.
Yeah.
Everything is cyclical in nature from what I've observed in my 45 years of living. So I don't anticipate that white folks will be in charge forever. All good things must come to an end. Even if you win it on the PlayStation forever and ever and ever, at some point, if you don't pay the bill, your electricity going off or the game go break. You can't always win, because if you're always winning, you're cheating. And cheaters always lose in the end. I think that it's important that we as Black men, especially those who are older, we have a responsibility to younger Black men, younger than us, to teach each other the most constructive thoughts and actions that is going to produce for us the results that we're looking for, or the best results overall. We got to start being more serious about being serious.
Yes.
And until we begin to be honest, have self-respect, tell yourself the truth, no matter how difficult it may be, because you can lie to me, but you can't lie to yourself. And until we begin to be a lot more honest about our situation, individually and collectively, then we're going to be a long way off from, making the necessary moves to begin to actually solve the problem that we have. I don't mind taking losses as long as those losses are taking me in the direction that I need to go.
Indeed.
That's what being a king and moving like one is all about. One step at a time. Just make sure that those steps is in the right direction.
Yes.
Thanks again for coming through, Brian. We're going to be back next week with episode number 3 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier for you folks, because I got a lot of thoughts about that episode. It was a pretty good episode. And right from the beginning, I seen some things that I viewed as problematic, at least in a symbolic way, if nothing else. You can get at Briyan Wryter on Instagram.
Yep.
His Instagram link will be in the video description below. You can follow me on Instagram. I got 2 pages, The Incredible T.O.P and the Top Cast Instagram page. Don't forget to check out the Top Cast on Anchor or your favorite podcast outlet. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Bring a friend. I like to think that I have some important, real conversations with real people here on the Top Cast. Thanks for everybody catching the replay. We'll see you guys next time. Peace. Thanks again, Brian.
Peace.